Rogue Command is a game I've been looking forward to for a while. I've featured it in a couple of my upcoming RTS videos, and I was pretty certain that I would at some point give it a crack, thanks to its enticing premise of mixing roguelike mechanics with RTS gameplay. Well, after a few recommendations from some of my Patreon supporters, that time is now. Rogue Command went into early access a few weeks back, and it's been received quite well, with nearly 90% positive reviews on Steam. Unfortunately, the player counts haven't been quite as high as I expected, so hey, if I can shine some light on Rogue Command, it's a win-win. I'll feel selfishly good about myself, and you'll find a new game to play that's pretty darn great. Rogue Command is a mostly traditional strategy game on the surface, with a simple but charming blocky art style. You've got base building, resource gathering, units with special abilities, and world powers to rain down fire on your foes. So what's the twist then? What makes Rogue Command something unique and worth talking about? Well, yep, as I mentioned, and it's in the name, it's a roguelike. I love roguelikes. One of my most played games is The Binding of Isaac, and Nuclear Throne is probably in my top 15 games of all time. So this might just be one of my dream combos. Right now, Rogue Command is in early access, and it is pretty early on. But don't be worried, it's not Industrial Annihilation early. This is actually playable, and very enjoyable at that. Sure, there are some rough edges, and the UI is clearly placeholder, but it runs well, except when it gets absolutely insane in the late game, and there's a decent amount of content here. There is currently just one mode, but it does a solid job at showing what Rogue Command is capable of, and what it will hopefully be down the line. And thankfully, like all roguelike should be, this mode is very replayable. You start off by choosing a few starter units, though your first couple of games will probably just be with the default ones, as you unlock more units as you play. Then, after choosing a few bonuses, you are immediately thrown into a scenario with one simple task: destroy your enemy. The games are pretty quick, especially in the beginning. You call in a few structures, build your couple of available units, and harvest enough crystals to build enough tanks to wipe out your enemy, who will often harass you right from the start, while at the same time protecting your engineer, who's like your king unit, because once they're dead, it's game over. And unlike Industrial Annihilation, there is actual AI here. The enemy won't just sit around and wait for you to start shooting. They'll be at your doorstep almost immediately. The real fun of Rogue Command comes after you start winning skirmishes, because it's here when the roguelike elements come into play. Winning a game gives you rewards in the form of a branching tree, filled with new units, currency to spend in the shop, abilities, more starting crystal, permanent run upgrades, and more. Each win gives you an entirely new tree to go through, so you're constantly getting tons of fresh new stuff, which does a lot to give Rogue Command that addicting one more run feeling that the best games of this genre have. On the right, you can see your overall path, how many engagements you're going to have, what's coming next, and what's awaiting you at the end. As you progress through the gauntlet, games get harder and harder, as you'd expect, and the enemies become more varied and numerous, and they seem to get more aggressive too. But obviously you'll have more resources at your disposal, and by the end you'll be commanding a formidable army of varied tanks, mechs, vehicles and buildings, all with unique abilities and upgrades, plus your own special powers to deploy in the game. It's a pretty satisfying loop, and a great power trip too. Getting an all-powerful new unit, like a multi-missile firing mech, or a long-range artillery piece feels great, and wanting to use them in combat, then subsequently upgrade them after a win with new abilities and special features over and over again, keeps pushing you forward in a natural way. It doesn't feel stale or repetitive. Not yet, anyway. Maybe after a dozen runs or so, sure, but right now, with this limited early access release, it feels like there's a solid number of hours to enjoy here. And on that note, there is a surprisingly exhaustive list of upgrades and units here too. Look at all this, it just goes on, and this game just came out in early access. That's pretty impressive. And while the art style is simple, I find it's pretty charming. The visual distinction between all the units is solid, as well as the buildings, which is really important, and the effects are punchy and look really good, especially like the lasers and the missiles. And all the unit designs themselves are really fun. The animations are pretty great, though sometimes the mechs do just kind of slide around without their legs moving, but hey, I'm sure that'll be fixed. Honestly, the game looks really good. I think it looks awesome. I like that Rogue Command gets right into the action right from the start. There really is no fluff or barriers to entry. You just start, you load in, and you're in the thick of it, basically. I reckon there's a lot of potential here, with different factions, game modes, multiplayer, larger maps, multiple enemies, more rewards, etc, etc, etc. I reckon this will be incredible. All those are speculation on my part, mind you, but all of those are possible additions, I'm sure you'd agree. Add some co-op in there, and I reckon Rogue Command would be an absolute blast to play with some friends. Or, maybe just one friend. Rogue Command is available now on Steam for $20 if you want to pick it up and give it a crack yourself, which I would highly recommend. That may seem a little steep for what it offers now, but I think it's a fair price for the potential that I think this game has. But as usual, the standard early access warnings apply. Only buy the game now if you're happy with what it currently offers, or want to support the developers in their work and are aware of the risks of buying an in-development product with no explicit guarantee that it will ever be finished. If you do give the game a shot, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I've certainly enjoyed my time with it, and I am very keen to see where the game goes from here. So let me know, I would love to hear your thoughts. Thanks so much for watching this quick video, and I'll see you all next time.